perishable distribution and perishable production are difficult to do. And you have to really be good at operations. And if you know what you're doing, it's just in time and the model works great. And if you don't, you can lose a lot of money quickly. And it doesn't work very well.
Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike McAllowitz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this. And it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike McAllowitz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. How do you go from startup with a little bit of capital to an 8-figure brand in a competitive marketplace and ensure you're profitable and cash flowing? That's our topic for today. Listen in as Matt says you have to know your numbers, and if you don't, get someone on your team who does, like me, because this is what we do and how we help. We have plenty of clients who get to walk away with more money than they ever imagined while working less. How do they do it? By understanding the 3 drivers: revenue, profit, and cash flow, and the 16 levers that make it up. Doesn't matter what size your business is. We share all of that in our new book, The Profit Blueprint. You can get it free at profitcomesfirst.com. It's on the bottom left of the page. Today, we have Matt McLean, a pioneer agricultural activist and entrepreneur in the organic farming and food movement. He's a 7th-generation Floridian. Matt's citrus roots date back 4 generations to his great-grandfather, who farmed without the use of harmful pesticides or synthetic fertilizers. Matt founded Uncle Matt's Organic in 1999 with 3 acres in his dad's backyard. It's now one of the largest organic orange juice brands and the #1 selling OJ and grapefruit juice in the U.S., with a full line of organic beverages sold nationwide in over 20,000 stores. Let's learn how he started and how he got to where he got to and what you can take away to do this with your business. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Matt McLean. It's great to have you join us today.
Hey, thank you, Rocky. It's a pleasure to be on. Appreciate it.
Most welcome, and I'm always excited to learn from other business owners. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your business?
Absolutely. So I am founder and chief uncle of Uncle Matt's Organic. We are America's #1 selling organic orange juice brand. We were founded in June of 1999, so we recently turned 25 years old. We were organic before the USDA organic seal was even a thing. We are distributed nationwide. You can find us in probably 20,000 stores from Hawaii to Maine to Alaska to even Puerto Rico. Most grocery stores is where you'll get us: Publix, Kroger, Whole Foods, Sprouts, Walmart, places like that. I grew up in Florida, seventh generation Floridian, and our office is headquartered just west of Orlando in a little town called Claremont.
Suffice to say, you're not a teeny little business if you've got that kind of distribution.
We're a little bigger than a startup, but every day I feel like a startup. So,
well, you should feel good about that, right? Because when you talk to Jeff Bezos, he's like, every day is day one here at Amazon.
That's right. You're always learning. You're always trying to get better. And the competition is fierce. It's America. No profit goes unchallenged.
Yeah. I think that's something people don't realize. When you create a highly profitable market niche, a lot of people, once they know about it, everybody comes rushing in and then they suck it out. And so then you got to go find a new way to build it back up for you.
That's right.
Not easy. So how did all of this start?
Yeah, so I grew up in the citrus business, and so that was in my blood. I worked in the citrus groves as a kid. I went to college to actually get out of agriculture, and I had a degree in business administration with a minor in economics. And when I graduated, I had some options to be in sales, selling software, business forms, and I just got the opportunity with one of my father's citrus clients. My father and grandfather were citrus growers, and then in the 80s, they had devastating freezes. 83, 85, 89, and they lost everything. 600 acres destroyed. So they became citrus consultants. And one of the growers that my dad was consulting with, he was German. And he had some friends over in Germany that were bottlers. And he said, hey, I really need some help. I want to sell Florida orange juice and grapefruit juice over there, but I don't know how to do it and go around and buy it. I don't have a good name. Perhaps you could help me. And I was fresh out of college, and the opportunity to travel to Europe was very enticing to me. So I signed on immediately. It's like, yes, I'm in. And I used my father and grandfather's great name and reputation to go around to the 35 juice plants at the time and find conventional orange juice and grapefruit juice. We'd put it in 55-gallon steel drums. We'd freeze it. We'd put it in the hull of a ship and send it over to Holland and then truck it down to Germany. And we created a really good business from both of us going on from Florida to Europe. And so I grew that business. It's really where I cut my teeth on learning juice, what makes good tasting juice, from variety to bricks to acid to oil level, all of those things. And one of those German customers, 96, 97, asked me about organic. He said, hey, can you find some biologic grapefruit juice? And I said, hey, I don't know what that is, but by gosh, I'll go try and find it. And it led me back to the U.S. I did find and track down an organic grower and source the fruit and wind up selling him some organic grapefruit juice. But I also had the entrepreneur moment. You always have that aha moment of, hey, I may have something here. And when I went to the marketplace, there was no Organic Simply or Tropicana or Florida's Natural. And so that was when Uncle Matt's was born. I took a couple of years to figure it out, how to really make a product, what to name it, how to get it to the marketplace. But that was the beginning of Uncle Matt's. And it came from my import-export business that was rooted in agriculture, and it really worked out perfect.
Was organic even a thing in the United States back then?
It was, but it wasn't regulated by the federal government. It wasn't overseen by the USDA. Up until 2002, there were other regional certifiers. So we were certified by Florida Organic Growers when I started in June of 1999. And they were using a standard from the California Foods Production Act. And that's basically what was the law and the framework that became the National Organic Program and the USDA's law in 2002. So when you look on any organic product, they will have the organic seal from the USDA that says USDA organic. And we have to go follow by those rules and regulations and be audited and be subjected to different products being pulled off and pesticide screened and randomly tested. And so, yeah, that's USDA organic. And we were there before it began.
So from your humble beginnings to now to this big business, was it just an easy path to growth?
Like any entrepreneur that'll tell you the honest truth, heck no. It was pitfalls. We used to have daily pitfalls in business. I mean, here I am sitting there talking to you, and we have tariffs. Are we going to have tariffs? Or are we not going to have tariffs? And trying to, negotiate those kind of things in business. But that's just business in general. We definitely had a lot of hurdles along the way over the 25 years. A lot of great rewards, more rewards than pitfalls. Thank goodness.
Well, that's good. What were some of those pitfalls, and how did you figure your way around them?
Sure. In the beginning, we had just the challenge right out of the gate. We are a refrigerated, perishable, organic premium juice. So I had to make a minimum run. We had a co-packer that said, hey, you got to run 600 cases minimum, and I can only put 65 days of shelf life on it. And the retailer, when you go to them, they don't want it with just 2 days left. They want it with at least 30 to 45 days. So that gives you about, 4 weeks from the time you produce those 600 cases to get it out the door, or else you're having to send it to the food bank and you lose money. So that was the very first thing I learned in the beginning was, why did I start a refrigerated perishable company? Maybe it should have been shelf stable. I would have had like a year plus. But it also that was kind of the first moat around competition because it was difficult to do. But I was willing to take on that challenge. And today we have a very good just-in-time system, and perishable distribution and perishable production are difficult to do. And you have to really be good at operations. And if you know what you're doing, it's just in time and the model works great. And if you don't, you can lose a lot of money quickly and it doesn't work very well. So that was the first big challenge we had in business. And it was right out of the gate.
I know for many business owners, building the operations part of the business is not easy for them.
Right.
Getting everything to work together to be able to deliver like that. And in your case, it's got to be tied to sales, right? Because sales and production have to be on the same page.
Correct.
They can't be promising what you can't deliver.
Correct.
And if they're not selling what you need to deliver, then so how did you get that all together?
So you went out in the old school, just hustle, right? I went out and pitched to a variety of retailers. We had a local supermarket chain called Gooding's here in Orlando. And then we had a natural food chain called Chamberlain's. And between those two, that gave me a nice little base. And then I signed on a good produce distributor called Albert's Organics. And they went up and down the East Coast to a lot of the health food stores. So between kind of those three, I had just enough business to skate by on the 600 cases. And from there, I just started adding more and more retailers. And I eventually added a food broker that helped me go out, add more distributors and more retailers. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. But in the beginning, that was the biggest hurdle, was getting enough sales and then also finding good quality supply. Organic is hard to do. There's not a roadmap for an organic farmer. And so coming out of a farmer's background, a farmer's roots, I worked with different growers in the beginning, and then we also became the organic farmer, transitioned some of our own family stuff that we had, very small. And then we bought more groves. We worked with other growers. We eventually built 1,500 acres that we were growing ourselves with a group of about 35 growers and with our own team production that was led by my dad and my brother, who were the agronomists in the family.
So vertical integration over time.
We did. And then, Mother Nature de-vertical integrated us with citrus greening. So we no longer are primarily a grower. We work with growers because Florida, the citrus greening disease, has really affected our production and our trees. And so we're now much lower. What we have left is just for research and development. And we have to source product now from California, Texas, Mexico, and other places around the world to find high quality supply. So another big hurdle later in the game, much later in the game, didn't come until 2016, 2017.
So constantly pivoting through your struggles. I mean, that's just what it is, right?
You have adversity. If there's an entrepreneur that tells you that, hey, I got to figure it out and there's not a lot of adversity in this, don't listen to him. That guy he's either part of like multi-level marketing or something. It's not, nothing against them. There's plenty of honest ones there, but he's got something that he's telling you that's not telling you the truth.
And I concur with you. You mentioned being in some big label stores, and everyone always thinks getting into a big store is great for business. Yet there's the downside to working with a lot of these large retailers because they have their own demands. How have you been able to negotiate that or work through that?
Yeah, so there's a nice balance there. It depends on the account, right? So in retail, for sure, if you go to some big accounts, they will charge you slotting. They want you to do heavy promotions, and all of those things cost you money. And in particular, slotting, they'll want free product. Like, hey, give us a 1 to 2 to even 3 cases per store. Or in other cases, they'll just say, hey, give us X amount of money for this one new item that you're going to put in. And so you got to come up with that money up front. And there's no guarantee that your product is going to sell. And a lot of times that stuff is you won't pay yourself back in for 1 to 3 years. So it's a longer term investment. So a big risk, I would avoid those accounts in the beginning if they're going to ask that much up front. I would get a lot more runway with other mom and pops and independents and other regional chains that are not going to charge you slotting and not going to ask for a lot of free product in advance, because you're just, unless you have a lot of startup capital and you have huge margins, like 70, 80, 90% gross margins, it's not going to go very well for you if that product doesn't sell and sell quickly.
In light of that, is it worth it to go into the big stores, or is it better to stay in the small and take the margin and not have the stress?
So great question. One of my favorite partners is Publix. And Publix is the kind of company that if you're a good operator and you have a good product and it's going to sell well, they'll let you in the door and they're going to partner with you. They're not going to ask for a lot of free stuff. They're going to just ask that you provide on time, quality product, and it's really, an excellent relationship. So I was, and that's why they've been so successful. And I wish everybody had that same model as them. Their employees love working for them. Companies love working with them. And, they came in and were one of my first big accounts, the first big account I had. When I got into there, it was 2001. The buyer actually called me on 9/11, which was one of those very remarkable, memorable days. He said, "Hey, Matt, on a bad day, I'm going to give you some really good news. We're going to bring your product in." And I was, holy cow, you're right, very bad day, but very good news, because I knew it would change the trajectory of my business. And I had, they immediately brought in about 900 stores. So for me, then making 600 cases was no problem. Now it was, hey, I need to make a whole lot more than 600 cases because this is going well. And so that just gives you the real, leverage to get to the next plateau in business. And, still every time I go in for my annual review of Publix, I thank them profusely for giving me that chance way back in 2001. And we're now, an integral partner with them.
How did you pay for that large order to your packers?
I've been in business since 99. I had some of my own capital and was able to, I still had my import-export business that was funding Uncle Matt's in the beginning. And so I was able to do that. I was able to fund the order and the size, and, people believed in me. Now I had a couple years track record plus another business. And so it worked out. And it was only one item. Now, if he would have taken 3 or 4 items, it may have been a little bit more difficult. So
do you think you would have been able to get funding at that point if you didn't have the other company and the other capital?
No, I would not have had any track record. I would have not had, other assets and income streams. So I would have had to have a big family and friends round. I never had the family and friends round. My mom loaned me $20,000 in the beginning of my import-export business, and that was paid back and then some, especially, as stock in Uncle Matt's as we grew the company. So it wound up being a great investment for Mom, and couldn't be happier for her and Dad.
But that's something I think people don't realize. They think, oh, I got the big sale. I made it into Publix. Woo-woo. And it's like, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for the growth? Because if you don't have the cash or the capital or the access to it, it's going to be a struggle.
Right. The one good thing I will say this, the one good thing, you have to look at payment terms, right? Publix pays out like clockwork. Another great thing about them. They don't beat around the bush. They do what they say they're going to do. They pay you right on time, so you can just about guarantee within a day or two that check's going to get cut. So whatever the terms are with you, try to get a little bit longer terms with your vendors, right? And then you can make that order work. And so get 45 days from the vendor, Publix pays in 30 days, boom, then that can work. In my business, it was just in time. So I was only making to order. If you had another business where, hey, I got to put up 6 months of inventory and then they buy through it, that's a different story. So there is a plus to being a refrigerated perishable just in time. I never did buy a whole lot more inventory than I needed.
And these are important discussions to have as you're thinking through, how am I going to grow?
Right.
What is my AR expectation? What is my AP expectation?
Right.
What can I negotiate and how do I time it? Because what you mentioned is a perfect timing in the ability to do that. Not everyone gets that kind of timing. A lot of people have to pay,
Right.
especially if it's a production item,
Right.
and their AP is due before it even ships out the door.
Right.
Right. And so that becomes a difficult game.
When we got much later in our game, we had one customer, Dollar General, and we played around with our single serve in some of their stores. Their terms are 120 days payment. And you're like, holy cow. I mean, 120 days? Woo. So that relationship didn't work very well. And they're successful. They can do it. If that's their model, they can do it. But, people will work in then, okay, I got to borrow money for that. And so what's the cost of that capital to float you 120 days? And I got to add that to my price. Otherwise, it's coming right out of your cost of goods or right out of your margin.
And that's the important thing is understand the market, understand the order, and appropriately price it. Because I have found it's all these little things. I mean, that's a couple of percentage points there, but you get 3% here and 3% there and 3% here, 3%, and you're losing a lot of money very, very quickly.
It adds up fast. Billbacks and deductions off invoice stuff. I mean, it's a full-time job for a couple people in our office just to make sure things are paid right and paid on time and they're not taking more deductions than they need to. We have a couple big distributors in our industry that like to push the boundaries. And I'll just be polite and say that, describe it that way, on what they think should be deducted. And so we're constantly disputing and having to push back on what we think are realistic and legitimate deductions.
You got to have people who can do that and who know how to deal with that and will take the effort and stay on top of it to make sure they are doing it. So, yeah, all of that stuff is important. But you've worked at times with limited resources. How do you do that? Like, what are some of the things you did to overcome resource limitations?
The more you can find good partners, vendors that will, work with you, give you longer terms. You kind of do your best to ask to stretch on terms if you can. Find good lending partners that will also do the same, that will give you the best rates on lines of credit for inventory and accounts receivables. Over the years, we have found the right partners that we can maximize that. So it helps us if we need to borrow more money because, hey, we're growing fast, or hey, we need to go in and buy this crop while the season is shortened or something like that. That really helps to have this kind of partners. One in particular, Farm Credit, I'll go on record saying it's been a great partner for us. They're a co-op and they actually give patronage refunds. So if they have a real good year as a co-op, they'll mail you a check back. So, when's a lender done that with you? So I always like that.
It's always nice to get money back in the mail, right? Rebates add up the opposite way. Is those 3% going out? It's a couple percent coming in, and That's kind of how you do it. You play those. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of times business owners are looking for these home runs, but this is a game of base hits and bunts and little stuff like show up, do the little things all the time and do that.
Yeah. Most of the businesses you'll see in America are not going to be wildly profitable with wild margins. And if they are, they're not that way for forever unless they have patents that protect them or they have truly innovations you can't duplicate. So you got to be very good at watching your small percentages and those kind of things, deductions and billbacks and, allowances that people are taking, because it all will add up to where before you know it, hey, I didn't make any money last year. And what happened? This guy got dinged here, I got dinged there. Everybody's got their hands in your pocket trying to take money from you.
Have you had to deal with economic shifts, just what's going on in the economy, or has that not really affected you?
Every year that we would go into, and over 25 years, you've heard it. We've probably gone through, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 windows where we're like, hey, I think this is a recession. And organic food costs more. You guys are going to be hit the hardest. You're a luxury good, and that's not going to last. And actually, we made it through fine, knock on wood. And it was almost the opposite, where, we were just protected because people valued it the most and said, hey, I'll cut out going out to eat. I'll cut out going to the movies. I'm not going to cut out my, organic item that I love the most and it tastes great. And I know it's healthy for myself and my family. We were one of the last things to get cut out of the budget is what we saw. So we're pretty, I'd say, more resilient than other industries. And we're very grateful and thankful for that.
Always got to figure it out and see. And a lot of times it depends on who's buying your luxury good.
Correct.
Right? And how much money they have in their disposable income. And I think some of the luxury goods that are more show-off-ish are probably going to drop very quickly when the economy goes down. But a luxury good that's bought by people, not because it's a luxury good, but because they want a certain quality of life or something, is probably more durable, which is what you're seeing with your.
Yes.
It sounds like you have a lot of family in the business, but then I'm sure you've got a lot of other employees. How do you deal with employees? Because that's the one thing that all of us struggle with.
Yeah. So my wife runs marketing. My dad and brother are on the agronomy side. We're lucky. We have a company that's growing. It's a fun brand. It's something that you can pick up and consume that tastes great. It's beverage. It's refrigerated. So it's, high velocity, high exposure. So that's kind of fun. We're lucky that way. We're not having a boring widget that's, difficult to sell and you're kind of, tired of like, okay, motor oil's motor oil, so to speak. So we're at least lucky from that standpoint. And we do have a nice culture fit. People come in, they're excited about either organic or healthy living or beverage space. And so those things we can fit on a cultural level with them, that they really feel they're part of our mission and our purpose on growing, better for you beverage brand with healthy organic food and farming.
How did you create the culture?
Mm-hmm. Over time, everybody needs to be trained in how to be a good leader, and so most entrepreneurs, they don't know right out of the gate, like, okay, I'm going to have to lead everybody, whoever it is. I got to motivate them, inspire them, keep them interested in the business, so they don't leave, especially if they're a good employee. So I'm pretty simple, just based off of my faith. Step one, golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. And that's pretty simple philosophy I've dealt with over my years. I like to have fun. I like to keep it light, but also, we're the small little brand, the Rocky Balboa, fighting simply in Tropicana, Florida's Natural, the much bigger brands. So that's always a fun challenge. And so, that's the kind of culture we have, that young startup, scrappy mindset, and, treat others the way you'd like to be treated. So, it's worked well for us. We don't always get it right. If you're not a good team player, if you're not able to come in and work cross-functionally, your idea is the only idea, those don't work. I pride myself on saying I don't have to be the smartest person in the room. I just need to be smart enough to listen to that person and identify when they are the smartest so I can learn and adapt.
And that's the key. Have you figured out how to find people that match your culture? Do you do anything to look at that, or how do you know?
Yeah, when we're hiring, we go through a list of just kind of basic questions about themselves and, try to put in some examples of, hey, you're sitting in a situational analysis, right? How would you react in this situation? What would you do? And you can get a good, enough good reference points of how that person's going to be, how they've been in the past, how they've problem solved, how they've worked with other people. And then you look for references as well. You look at a resume, you can kind of tell if they've job hopped a lot. They better have a pretty good reason of why they job hopped. Otherwise, it kind of tells you like, ooh, okay, if you ever only stayed somewhere 6 to 12 months and this is your sixth job in 6 years, 4 to 6 years, then, what's going on here? You're never satisfied. Are you a difficult person? And you get in those environments and they don't want you there anymore. So just really taking the time to dig into the person, the resume, and ask the difficult questions. There's no better time to ask them than in an interview, because you don't get a second chance after you hire them. Like, oh shoot, this was pretty obvious. You're a tough one to work with.
And you can see that, especially if they're complaining about all their previous employers. They're going to complain about you.
Yeah, that's an easy tell. Tell me about your past jobs. What did you like and what you didn't like? And if you spend majority of your time what you didn't like, you kind of know, oh, okay. But if they spend a lot about, boy, I really enjoy fill in the blank, like, okay, this is a positive person. So, do you have a positive attitude or not?
And I think that's a big part of it. You're a mission-driven business,
Mm-hmm.
but and it sounds like you're built on certain religious tenets, but in between all of that, we still have to bring in profitability.
Yes.
How do you balance all of these?
So, we are a for-profit business, and there's plenty of times I thought, I'm pretty sure I'm acting like this is a not-for-profit because I'm not making any money. And this is not sustainable. Okay, something's got to change here. Bring my tail off. We got to make money. Your goal is to make money in business and serve your customers. And so, if you serve your customer really well, and you are good at managing your money and managing your cost, you will be able to make a profit and you will be able to make money. But if you spend frivolously, if you don't have a lot of metrics in place and guardrails on, hey, how much are we spending on trade, how much are we spending on distribution, what's our cost of goods, and if you're not, my famous thing here that everybody knows, hey, we're gonna manage what we measure, and so you're measuring all these metrics, and you're realizing whether you're ahead of schedule or behind schedule, and if you meet your goals and stay on schedule with your goals, we're going to be fine and we're going to be a profitable company.
How difficult is it for you to capture all those numbers and measure them in an easy way?
In the beginning, when you're a startup, it's you and it's your, QuickBooks, and you're trying to run reports and trying to figure it all out. If I had to do it over again, I would probably hire more a consultant or somebody from the finance side to come help me do that. I was a finance major, so I wasn't afraid of it. I took enough accounting to not be afraid of a P&L and a balance sheet, but I definitely am still not an expert today on it. And I'm, a big enough company now that, we have a director of finance and a team back there. They can help run reports, and we look at, cash flow, and we look at, day sales outstanding, and we look at all the things that go into expenses and margin by item and margin by customer and dig in deeper. But I would say in the beginning, if you're uncomfortable with finances and you're uncomfortable with, looking at a P&L and a balance sheet, there's tons of people that will help you, and don't be afraid of that. You really need to know where your money's going and how to make money. How does it look? What are the proper things you need to correct to make money? Because I'd be surprised how many people don't really know their margin, don't know, okay, here's what I'm going to sell it for. Here are my true costs. Like, how much cost is it? And how much do I have as true margin? And I can't just promote the crap out of it. I can't, pay, less than load freight to send it all over the country, because there's nothing left. And that goes away pretty quick. So know your finances at the beginning as an entrepreneur starting out. And if you don't, hire the person that can help you do it.
And I think that is really the key. And that was a major aha for me. I just assumed business people understood the business of business.
Yeah.
And I found out they didn't. They all love what they did.
Right.
It might have been growing oranges.
Yep.
And they ignored the books. They go, it'll work out. I'll just sell more. And
right. It's all going to be cured with volume. I can tell you, over 25 years, you can lose a whole lot more of volume if you don't know what you're doing.
That is so true. Is there anything we should have talked about but didn't get a chance to?
I know. Maybe around the culture piece, we do a lot with our local community and charities, and that helps our employees feel a part of Uncle Matt's and what we're doing out in the community. So we'll choose every quarter a charity to put on the back of our juice bottles, and we'll give 2 cents of every case sold to that local charity. And Then we bring them in and we have this big, huge check ceremony where we hand them that, and all the employees here in Claremont go to that ceremony, and they get to choose it. So the employees vote, hey, this is what I want to do. And so that's who we give back to. So we, anything from homelessness to, food banks to, books for babies, just a variety of different things, the Special Olympics, all those things in our community. It really helps, now they have more than this is just a job. They have purpose because they see things that it gets back to and affects other lives around our community. So that's been something that I've implemented in the last 3 years that I'm proud of, that helps really also build culture. We do community gardens, organic gardens as well. So those kind of things can be, great for just, giving back and, creating long-lasting, purpose-driven employees.
And that's the key, is building that culture. And I think a lot of people forget about that. That's like, oh, I'll get to that tomorrow. Just like they'll get to their financials and their strategy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Too busy putting out fires.
Right. Correct. And that's easy to do. I mean, fires happen regularly. It doesn't matter what business you're in.
That it does. Is people would like to learn more about your company, where can they find you?
Yeah, we're all over social media. The easiest, just go to our website, unclemats.com. And if you want to buy our product, which I would highly encourage you to try, one of our delicious juices, lemonades, or teas, we have a store locator on our website. Just put in your zip code, and it'll tell you all the stores nearby you that you can buy one of our products. If you don't see something you like, or we're not in your favorite store, you can always order it on e-com. We'll ship it to you direct from our website. It will cost more because it's a perishable item, but we can get it to you anywhere in the continental U.S.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom.
Hey, you're welcome. I hope it helped. If nothing else, a lot of things not to do to be successful.
There's a ton of things that you've got to look at and build out in your business. But there's one you can't forget, the numbers and all the different metrics associated with them. As you heard from Matt, you also have to make sure that everyone is rowing in the same direction and communicating with each other. Simple concepts like making sure you get the money before you have to pay the bills, to knowing your margins and break even. Little cuts of a couple percent here and a couple percent there, and the next thing you know, there's nothing left for you. And that's not the way it is. This is why we say you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful with the ones you have. And remember, we always focus on the bottom line.
If you'd like for us to be a part of your profitability journey, we have different programs available ranging from do-it-yourself to one-on-one coaching. Our course, The Profit Blueprint, teaches you everything you need to know to transform your profitability. There are 3 different tiers ranging from DIY to done with you so that businesses of all sizes can get the support that's best. Join the waitlist in the show notes to get more information and be a part of the next cohort. If you want a done-for-you service, you can hire us as your Chief Profitability Officers. We only work with a handful of clients, so they all get our full attention. We work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on our calendar for a good fit conversation to see if we're the right people to support you and how we can help you.
Remember to check out my other podcast, Richer Soul, where we talk about how to live the ultimate life and be the best business owner you can be. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.